Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast, and I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Rayne, guest of Our Water. Rayne, it's awesome to have you on the show.
Thanks so much, Gresham. Good to be here on a
Definitely.
beautiful
Yes, it's
day.
definitely a beautiful time. Super
Yes.
excited to have you on. And before we jumped in, I wanted to read a little bit more about Rayne so you can hear about all the awesome things that she's doing. And Rayne is the founder of Our Water, and Rayne was home birthed and raised in the mountains of Idaho. She attended five universities while studying various fields, including business, marine biology, and nutrition. And over the last several years, Rayne has spent time in Southeast Asia, Europe, Australia, Brazil, Israel, Africa, and many, many other places. She is driven to do good by doing good in the world and developing patented technologies for this cause. Rayne, are you ready to speak to the IMCO community?
Oh, I'm ready. Let's talk.
Awesome. Let's do it then. So to kind of kick everything off, I want to rewind the clock a little bit, hear a little bit more on how you
Okay.
got started with your CEO story. We'll let you get started with all the awesome work you're
So with the Our Water story,
doing. Yeah, everything. Our water story and your story.
well, the Our Water story started back in the day in my Los Angeles years in, around 2006, 7, 8. During that time, I was doing recycling programs around the city of LA. So as you mentioned, I was born in a very home birth in a very small town up in the mountains of Idaho. So I was just raised in very pristine environments. So when I got out to LA in my 20s, I was like, what the heck is going on here? Like people would just throw their stuff on the street and be like, oh, it's a street cleaner's job to come and get it. And I mean, it was just a mess. You'd see trash overflowing everywhere. So anyway, it, hurt my soul a little bit.
Yes.
So I started doing recycling programs. I just kind of started a business, going into hotels and larger buildings and teaching them how to source separate their commodities, like their plastic, cardboard, paper, all that stuff. Saved people a bunch of money doing that. So one of the groups that I worked for was called the Core Hotel Group, and they were doing a development in the Caribbean. And they asked if I could develop a recycling program for the island. So anyway, I kind of got involved talking with all the people there on the island, the government officials and all those people. And they let me know that a huge problem they'd had on the island is, all the islanders had got sick, okay? And they couldn't figure out what was causing it. And they finally traced it to the landfill. Basically, what was happening is because the island had had an influx of development with hotels and resorts in different places, all those chemical concentrate containers, that they use for like window cleaner and floor cleaner and disinfectant and all that stuff, when that got discarded into the landfill, the toxic concentrate seeped into the groundwater and made its way to the aquifer, which was the source of drinking water for all the people on the island. Wow. Okay. So, before that, I hadn't given chemicals much mind, to be honest with you. I was one of these people, like I washed dishes growing up at a restaurant. I was like, the more detergent, the better. Didn't think about wearing gloves, oh, bleach. Oh, more bleach. Great. Right. But anyway, quickly came to the realization that that was not the case. Chemicals are pesticides and they're toxic to humans and they're toxic to the environment generally. So anyway, the Core Hotel Group, I went on board with a company that had a technology where you could produce a disinfectant and all-purpose cleaner on site by separating salt water. Okay, this is back in like 2008. The hotel group implemented the technology in their properties to help, eliminate the plastic waste problem, throwing all these chemicals out in the landfill. Right. So that was kind of how I got introduced to this sort of technology. Now, a large chemical company, Ecolab, came and bought that technology and shelved it.
Oh, no.
And that was in 2009. So I was obviously a little bit pissed at this. Yeah, I was like, what? Is that even legal? Right? Yeah. So, because by that time I'd seen too, like hotel workers, how much they suffered from the chemicals they were exposed to, right? And, let's be real, the majority of janitorial people in large scale hotels are not upper class white kids. Right. So, people weren't paying any attention. Nobody was giving them proper protective gear, right? They're minimum wage workers. Nobody complains because they don't want to lose their job with benefits. They need to feed their families, right? I mean, it was an issue. You could just, people were hurting from the chemicals. So anyway, when I saw that company buy and shelve the technology, I went on a mission to find a new way to produce the solutions, and found a new way to produce them and got a patent on it.
Nice. Well, I definitely appreciate you for doing that. And I almost, sometimes I use the phrase "the voice for the voiceless," and so many times people feel like they don't have a voice and they don't have a say, like especially if those things are happening. But I appreciate people like you that obviously, are able to build, successful businesses and organizations, but at the same time do good, as you said, so well in terms of doing it. Because sometimes we feel like we have to do either or. But I love when you have that opportunity to do both.
Oh, yeah, no, and it's been a difficult road because, mind you, I applied for the first patent in 2010. So
Hmm.
we were around way before COVID hit, right?
Mm,
Um, but, trying to even raise money to get the business going in Los Angeles, you're dealing with venture capital firms that are like, oh, you got what? Well, okay, we'll put some money into you. We want 51% when we can go sell it for 4x to the chemical companies. We're out.
right.
And I was like, no, you're missing the point. Like, hey, I'm a capitalist. I want to make money. Okay,
Hmm.
but I want a technology around that's going to help people, because I
Right.
was definitely seeing the tragic effects on human health, on the environment. I just don't feel it's, you can't poison the population for profit. I mean, people do it every day, don't get me wrong, but in my mind, that's just like the shit of the shit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I have the same mindset as well too, where, I almost feel like to me, like the big the best businesses and organizations are those that solve problems. The best entrepreneurs are people that solve problems. And I can't really jive with starting a problem, solving a problem in order to create a bigger problem when we're talking about the human condition and not, having healthy people. To me, it doesn't make sense. So I appreciate you for doing that.
Yeah, well, thanks. A lot of potential investors would definitely disagree with you.
I'm sure. Oh, I know they would. But
They're
hopefully
like,
that
no,
wave
wait,
is starting
let's
to
do it
change.
this way. I'm like, you're not the right investor for me because that's the wrong way to do it. We're
Yeah.
going to go for optimal impact here. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's kind of how things started back in the day. Then I knew I couldn't really get anywhere in Los Angeles because it was so expensive to live. Like,
Hmm.
I was barely getting by. I could barely pay my rent because
Hmm.
I was, paying all my money to buy parts to build prototypes. And my
Right.
brother and the inventor were building prototypes out of their shops. And yeah, my girls would be like, you wore that dress last weekend. I was like, I bought electrodes
There you go.
and I dry cleaned it. So
There you
shush.
go.
Sorry if I mess up your Facebook photo.
No,
Anyway.
that's awesome because I mean I think a lot of people don't realize sometimes the challenge of like truly disrupting, an industry and sometimes disrupting the norm, so to speak, when you have people that have especially a lot of, money and probably influence as well too, that want to sometimes take those technologies and shelve them when you're trying to do something good and the sacrifices and the impact that you had to take in order to make sure that that happens. So I appreciate you for that.
Well, and we're still not through it, right? We're still dealing,
Yeah, I'm
with
sure.
it every day. We're going up against multi-billion-dollar companies that do not want us around.
Mhm.
Throughout the years, you'd be surprised at how many people got fired in positions that wanted to put us in, or how many facilities got free chemicals forever in order to kick us out,
Right.
right? Just very stuff that is very unethical. But if you start like going and doing lawsuits everywhere, you don't have money to go and do
Right.
it, right? And then you take up all your time trying to, fight them that way. And sometimes just got to put one foot in front of the other and keep on pushing.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't sometimes have the resources to be able to do what you were created to do, that mission, that you had. So I wanted to drill down a little bit deeper because I know you touched on it a little bit. I wanted to hear a little bit more about our water, the patent and everything that you have and how you
Mhm.
serve the clients, and also what you feel kind of maybe even sets you apart and is what I like to call your secret sauce and makes you unique.
And we got some secret sauce.
There you go.
Got that in my swag bag. No, um, so basically, the technology is a computer system that creates a healthcare grade disinfectant and an all purpose cleaner out of salt water. And we do so by separating the salt, which is sodium chloride, and recombining sodium with water on one side of a cell and the chlorine with water on the other side of the cell. So when you separate salt, you actually get two products. One of them is hypochlorous acid, and one of them is sodium hydroxide. So the big differentiator here, right, is that we're actually enabling people to produce their chemicals on site versus having them packaged and shipped to them.
Mm-hmm.
But efficacy is a huge deal. So TK60 is our disinfectant. Hypochlorous acid is the active ingredient in that product. That product replaces all window cleaners, all disinfectants, all sanitizers, right? I mean, it replaces tens of thousands of products that are currently out in the market. And what sets us apart as far as efficacy is concerned is most products take 10 minutes to work, meaning you would actually have to spray a product on a surface and let it sit there for 10 minutes before you wiped it up for it to actually kill the germs it claims to kill. Now, you've probably been out to eat, you've probably been to the gym, have you ever seen someone wait 10 minutes for a product to work?
No.
No. People weren't even doing it throughout the pandemic. It was so frustrating. So our product, though, it kills 100% of the pathogens that they require you to test in 1 minute, and it kills COVID in under 20 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So super high efficacy, and it's safe. You can spray the stuff in your eyes, your face, you can, gargle with it and it doesn't hurt you. Whereas chemicals that people use now, I mean, it causes all sorts of issues, breathing issues, skin rashes, right? And then the other product that comes out of our device is FC Plus, for Floor and Carpet Care Plus More. And that product replaces all of your degreasers, all-purpose cleaners, grout cleaners, granite cleaners, right? So those two products, really replace the vast majority of chemicals that are out in the world today. And they work better.
Work better and make the world a better place, it sounds like, too.
And they're safe for humans, right?
Yeah.
And they're safe, they're clean release in the environment. And, during COVID and stuff, everybody was running out of disinfectant, right? It was a big deal. I mean, our stuff, the hospitals that had us during COVID, they were handing out 5-gallon caddies to, their fire departments and everybody, because they had more than enough. The device can make 300 gallons of disinfectant a day. So
That's
they were
huge.
giving bottles to their nurses,
Yeah, that's huge. It kind of sounds like it kind of, I guess, I don't know if you want to use the word empowers, like the organization or the people that have it, because you're not kind of beholden to having to go, and purchase this on a regular basis. You kind of have a system, I guess, for lack of a better term, on how you can kind of build and create this within your organization.
Empowers is a great word. I mean, honestly, I know that the nurses that were using the product, they felt safe, right? They felt like it was in their hands to protect themselves against COVID, and they had the power to do so, right? I got an email from HR at one of the healthcare groups. She goes, Rayne, so I hear our nurses are spraying each other down with your product when they get out of COVID rooms. And technically, I can't say that it's okay, right? But I know it's not going to harm them. I mean, shoots, I spray this stuff all over. So I just wrote back. I was like, yeah, we do that too. Let me not get the FDA on my ass right now. But yeah, we do that too.
No, that makes so much sense. Now, I definitely appreciate that. And I think so many times, like, we talked about, we don't sometimes look at the effect that we're having on creating this solution, but I love that you have been able to look at it in so many different ways. And to me, the ultimate way, which is the people and the human aspect, which I think so many times we forget about in business.
I mean, it's almost the last thing that you take into account these days in business, not you, but in business, people are so spreadsheet driven, bottom line, oh, that's better on the bottom line. Well, that's what we're going to do, versus actually taking a step back and saying, okay, no, let's actually take this business and have the highest impact we can. Right. I mean, I so wish that people took that approach. Even like you look at all these billionaires now that are, oh, okay, when I pass away, I'm giving 99% of my wealth to whoever. And I'm like, well, how about while you're here, you do shit right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so it's frustrating. It's frustrating it's rewarding to be in business. I mean, you work for yourself, right? It's rewarding, but there's also so many frustrations that come along with it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like that double-edged sword. But I think at the end of the day, to me, like if you're able to kind of look at yourself in the mirror and you're able to say that you are doing good for the good of humanity, as you have as your mission, I think it's something that can at least through the difficulties give you that light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. So
You sound like my
um,
mom now.
there you go. Your mom's a smart lady.
I was getting so frustrated during COVID, right? Because,
Yeah,
hospitals froze and nursing homes froze, right?
right,
Like they weren't making changes on products that they were using necessarily because, rightfully so, they were really concerned with COVID and,
right.
what was going to happen with it because, people just didn't know a lot about it. Um, so I was just like, but I was so frustrated because I was like, oh, you know, everybody needs this right now. And she's like, honey, now if you save one life, I was like, Mom, I don't want to save one. I want to save millions.
Right, right.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. Well, I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO hack. So this could be like an app, a
Hmm.
book, or a habit that you have, but what's something that makes you more effective and efficient?
I go to bars and talk to people that sit next to me.
There you go. That goes a
No,
far way.
I mean, truthfully though, I do read, books and blogs on occasion and stuff, but probably the best insights that I've gotten have just been from truly talking to people next to me on a flight or people at restaurants or whatnot, just open random conversations. If you're writing a book, you're taking time to really put specific thought processes down in
Mhm.
a certain way to affect the most people. But if you have a conversation after a couple of cocktails with somebody at a bar and they're a really successful business person, I mean, you can get so much of the real lowdown on how to
Yeah.
handle situations and connections and everything. So, yeah, my hack would be open, be out there, and really just be yourself and talk to people because people are our best resource for knowledge,
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely. Yeah, there's so much information and knowledge, as you said, and experiences that we have from each other, and we each have our
Mhm.
own zone of genius. Just opening up a conversation, as you said, is so huge because so many times we're not doing that, and then there you never know who you're sitting beside or who you could potentially have been talking to. So,
Well,
I
okay,
love
now I
that
got to
hack.
ask you though, what's your hack in case I can use yours?
My hack, I have so many hacks, but I mean, I love that because I read, I listen to a ton of, podcasts and information. I think that there's nothing new under the sun. So I love that hack. I haven't done the cocktail part, but I think that if you add that in, that's when you get the real information. So I would definitely say that would definitely be one of mine as well, too.
All right.
And I wanted to ask you now for what I call a CEO nugget. So this could be a word of wisdom
Hmm.
or piece of advice. It might be something if you were to hop into a time machine, you would tell your younger business self.
It's not going to happen in 6 months. I mean, they always say it takes what, 10 times as long and costs 10 times as much money.
Right.
I mean, actually, I think they say twice as long and twice as much money, but I would probably tell myself to enjoy the ride just a little bit more, get a hobby that is away from the business so that you have another way to unwind at the end of the day and kind of try to keep your mind off of it. Because I really let myself get consumed the last decade. I mean, my
Hmm.
30s, I'm 41 now, but my 30s were really consumed by the business. I mean,
Hmm.
living it, dreaming it, breathing it every day. Wish I would have taken a dance class or, just something where I could have stepped away and let it go, right? Enjoyed it a little bit more, that process. I say that now, but you never know. I feel that there's a lot of power in thought. So maybe all that thinking about it created some of my reality in it. And had I not have been thinking about it so hard, it wouldn't have happened the way it did. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's hard to tell.
Yeah,
Real
it's
hard
always
to
hard
tell.
to go back in time in the time machine and kind of change those things. But I feel like the people that do make the biggest impact and change in the world are, and I don't know if you would use this word, but I would say like obsessed with seeing that come to fruition. And I think putting in that time and energy is really where you see things go. Sometimes if you take that energy away and that knowledge and the I guess the hunger for change, so many
Hmm.
times it doesn't come to fruition because that's what it takes in order to get over that hump, so to speak.
Yeah, that's valid. That's valid. I don't know. Now I'm trying to do things where it's kind of like a combination where I can,
Yeah,
so like
not
taking
go to
golf
the
lessons, right? I'm
yeah.
like, oh, shoot, it's golf. I could,
You can
golf
have a
swing.
conversation. You
I
can
can
take
have
care of
meetings
your
on the
hack.
golf course. Wait, what's that?
Exactly. You can take care of your hack.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I can drive that ball 250. So there's not too many, as long as I
Yeah,
can keep on doing that, there's not too many people that don't want to golf with me. So,
yeah.
but I haven't even done that much, which
Mhm.
it's Texas. And granted, last week we were in a deep freeze, but
Yes.
we're 70 degrees yesterday and today.
That's what I heard. Yes.
What am I doing talking to you, Gresham? I should be on the golf course.
Exactly. Well, no, we're almost there. So we're almost
No, I'm
home.
just
So
playing.
it gave you the opportunity. So I wanted to ask you now my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. We're hoping to have different quote unquote CEOs on the show. So Rayne, what does being a CEO mean to you?
Oof. That's kind of a tough question, actually. I mean, you get all the responsibility and the stress with like none of the perks, right? I mean, we bootstrapped, right?
Mhm.
So, I mean, there were months where I was, racking up more credit card bills trying to make sure I made payroll for everybody.
Mhm.
And, I don't think people understand the stress in that, knowing that other people's livelihoods depend on you and it's got to happen. Like, knowing you've got to make it happen is, but there's something very powerful about that responsibility as well, because when things do start happening, you're like, yeah, that's right. I was the catalyst on that one. So yeah, being a CEO just, I guess, means, hey, um, hopefully I can help lead my organization to, making a better difference in the world and empower the people within my organization to improve their lives and reach their potentials. Because that really is a big part of it. When you're overseeing people, you got to be able to say, okay, how can this person grow? What can I do to make them feel this passion for what I'm doing that I feel, right? And you really got to pick and choose those people. You got to really know how to pick and choose a good team that melds. And I'd say our core team, that's one place I really feel like I've done good. Like my brother's in the business as well. He's CTO, and his right hand and my right hand, like we got solid people working with us, right? And that makes a huge difference. And then the people we're bringing on board, solid people. People we're doing strategic partnerships with, solid people. And I feel like we all have that common ground of, hey, we all want to form together to help make a difference, right? Help have a higher impact. So yeah, CEO means being able to drive change, I guess. Sum it up.
Nice. Well, I absolutely appreciate that. And even that holistic definition, because I think so many times when we think about driving change, we think about just the great parts of it and maybe not the sacrifices and things that we have to do in order to get to that goal. So I love, being able to kind of understand, and it sounds like even put it into perspective that you're making this sacrifice or you're bootstrapping your business or whatever in order to make an impact. And that impact is in our clients and customers that we work with, but it's also the team members that we have and seeing them grow and to change and to be the change that we're hoping to see in the
Mm-hmm.
world. So I love that perspective because I think it takes into account like that human aspect that we talked about, but also that sacrifice aspect that it also goes into doing really, really great things.
I mean, I just gave up my reproductive years. No big deal.
No.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Well, no, I
I'm just
truly,
playing.
yeah, I truly appreciate that perspective, Rayne, and I truly appreciate all the time you took today. What I wanted to do is just pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional you can let our readers and listeners know, and of course, how best they can get a hold of you and find out about all the awesome things you and your team are working on.
I guess one thing I would just really ask people is, I feel like today we're getting in such a digital age that we have lost touch with each other. And we've lost touch of actual experience. We all are relying on our social media pages and what the news is feeding us to get our information. But the best way to get information is to go out there and live it and be a part of it, and to get involved in your communities and to drive change and to really know that, the whole thing that one person, some people feel they cannot make a difference, but one person absolutely can make a difference, and we all should. So I just would really like to see people get out of that mindset of things are happening to me versus the mindset of I'm going to go make things happen, right? Because we all have that ability. We all have obstacles that we have to get through, but we all have the ability to go and do things. So I don't care if it's helping a neighbor. I don't care if it's going and donating some time. I don't care if it's visiting a nursing home so you can gain some of the people's knowledge that are in there so that we can, prevent history from repeating itself in certain areas, but just get out and get more involved. Like, we don't need to be spending all of our time on screen time, living vicariously through other people's lives. That would be my little end of the day nugget.
Nice.
And if people want to get a hold of us, you can go to r-water.com, reach out, shoot us an email, or call our office, and we'd be happy to talk with you.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much again, Rayne. We will have the link and information in the show notes as well, too, so that everybody can get a hold of you and find out about all the awesome things that you're working on. But I love that last kind of nugget that you gave as well, too. I think so many times we talked about the human aspect and how we forget about that. That happens in business, but probably it happens even more in life. So getting
Yeah.
that opportunity to connect, have a relationship, talk, have some margaritas or something, whatever it might be, to kind of lighten the mood. I think that's the preciousness of life, and I appreciate you for reminding us of that and how we can do that in our lives.